Spring, summer, or September, I'll never remember to pay you. Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. I am Raphael and I am here to review episode 3 of The Real Housewives with Messy Assistants of Atlanta. We start the episode off with Kenya looking around at the place that she's gonna have her daughter Brooklyn's 3rd birthday party at, and she's there with her event planner Monet, and she's telling Monet, I was thinking for this party the budget should be around $10,000 to $15,000. I'm like, $15,000? Kenya, if you would have hired me as your event planner, I would have saved you all of that money. The most you would have had to give me to set this whole party up is maybe $90, $100. I would have just went to Party City. I would have grabbed and brought a bunch of Paw Patrol plates, cups, napkins, spoons, maybe some balloons, hire a clown, and if I can't get a clown, then just hire Drew's husband, Ralph. But $15,000, I mean, that's a lot. And she's telling Monet, I want this to be memorable. And I'm like, I don't think that a 3-year-old is going to remember this party, but I mean, it's the thought that counts. So why not? Her and Monet, they sit down, they're having some tea, and I'm like, now wait a minute, is Monet a new cast member? Like, she's getting a lot of camera time. So Kenya, she starts telling Monet, well, I know that you've been a fan of the show, and I know that you watched, the last couple of seasons, and I think that you messaged me saying that I'm your favorite housewife, but, I'm going through a lot with my divorce, with Mark and everything, and I'm like, now, wait a minute, Kenya, you're spilling way too much onto Monet, and if I was Monet, I would have been like, okay, Kenya, I know your budget is $15,000, but if you want me to play therapist with you, that's gonna be extra. But Kenya, she went on to tell her that, yeah, everything's going really terrible with Mark. I believe he paid off his child support and he still hasn't signed any of the divorce papers. But we also find out that Kenya, she has full custody of Brooklyn. And she's like, oh, well, if Mark ever wants to visit or hang out with Brooklyn, that he needs to come to Atlanta. And I'm like, wow, that is interesting. I wonder what made the judge or whoever does this in the court, decide any of that. Like, what did Mark do? I mean, that's pretty terrible on Mark's part, and I wonder if he even wants to be part of Brooklyn's life. I mean, he seemed like he did at first, but I don't know. We haven't really seen much of him. But Kenya, you're doing the best you can. I mean, you're doing the best for you and your daughter, even if he is being an ass and he doesn't want to sign those papers. You're still doing the best, and for that, you have to get credit. We see Sheree working out at the gym with a fitness instructor, and we see her infamous jogger shirt on, and I'm not sure if this is part of her She by Sheree line that she's been trying to get approved all these years, but at least we got some type of promo, and we got the ball going with her shirts. In comes Marlo. Marlo's looking at her while Sheree's squatting down with some weights, and Marlo's like, Sheree, is this what you be doing with Tyrone? Is that how you squat on him? Is that what you be doing with Tyrone in the bedroom? Sheree, that is funny. I like what you're doing. And the fitness instructor, he's looking at Marlo like, like he was so over it. And Marlo's like, oh, so Sheree, what are we doing today? Are we working out? What are we doing? So Sheree's like, yeah, we're going to work out. He's going to be our fitness instructor for today. And then they start working out, or at least in Marlo's world, they start working out. And then at the bottom of the screen, it said, 11 seconds. And then Marlo's like, ooh, okay, well, I'm tired. Let's sit down. Marlo is hilarious. She probably thought that they were going to edit it somehow, to make it look like they were working out longer. But she sits down, Sheree's sitting down, the fitness instructor is like, okay, I was only being paid, allegedly, by Sheree, $15 an hour, so I'm leaving. So he walks away, they sit down, Marlo's like, so Sheree, I mean, what's been going on ever since my event? I mean, I know you had so much to say about it. Sheree's like, oh, no, I mean, yeah, we all had something to say about it, but it was just, constructive criticism. That's it. And I'm like, now, Sheree, you're the last person that needs to be giving anybody criticism on anybody's fashion show, because we all know what happened to your jogger set in your fashion line. So let's cut it out. But, she's telling Marlo, like, no, it was nothing cold-hearted. I mean, it was nothing, mean or anything. We were just giving all our opinions or whatever. And then they start talking about Candy and the whole situation with that. Marlo brings it up and she's like, well, I was talking to Candy and she told me that actually, what's that man, Anthony, Drew's assistant? He was also your assistant. And he said that you haven't really paid him for anything. So Sheree, she got upset about that, but she wasn't upset at Anthony. She was upset at Candy. And I was kind of confused. I'm like, wait a minute, why are you upset with Candy when Anthony's the one spreading this around? Now she's mad because she feels that Candy is spreading that false information around to people. And I'm like, I don't think that Candy was doing it in a malicious way. What do y'all think? I mean, she was just telling Marlo. Marlo's a friend, so of course they're gonna talk about it. It's not like, oh, let me just keep this secret, away from somebody. It'd be different if Candy was talking to a stranger, but she was talking to Marlo, so I'm not sure why Sheree was so upset about it. Sheree did make a good point when talking about Candy, when she said, well, Candy doesn't really like when people talk about these false narratives when it comes to her businesses, her marriage with Todd. She doesn't like negative gossip impacting her in any type of way, so why would she put that out there when it comes to me? Now, that is true, Sheree. Sheree, I do give you a point with that, and I can see why you're upset with Candy now, because Candy, we all know, she does not like any of that, especially on season 9 with those rumors and how it almost affected her life and her business. Marlo tells Sheree that she wants Tyler Perry to work with the archive in the future for his future projects, so Sheree had to throw it back at her, and she's like, oh, Tyler Perry, you said? Well, my son Cairo, he's working with him actually in the wardrobe department. Yep. So then Marlo, she's like, oh, well, you know what, Sheree, I'm also studying to be an actress too. You know, I want to be with Kenya and Drew, so I'm getting some acting classes as well. You know, I'm getting some practice in. And in her confessional, she's telling the producers or us, she's like, oh, you know, I've always been in this business. I've always been an actress. Check my IMBD, ZYOD, 1, 2, 3, buckle my shoe. And I'm like, wait, you're what? The producer was just like, wait, the I am who? So Marlo had to redo it again. She's like, my IMDb, sweetie. And the producer's like, no, that's the wrong letters. Keep trying it over. Keep moving the letters around. And Marlo's like, my IMDb. Eventually she got it right. But now she said that she has a history, right, on her IMB, whatever the shit is. So let's look at it, right, because I pulled it up. So these are the things that Marlo is known for. And kudos to Marlo. You know, I'm not saying anything bad, but let's just see. So she has been on a show or TV series called Games People Play. Okay, so she's been on The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Watch What Happens Live, The Wendy Williams Show, Sister Circle, a TV series. She's been on a TV movie called How High 2, another TV series called Wig Out. Let's see, what else? Love and Hip Hop New York. She was on Love and Hip Hop New York? Well, okay, then congrats, Marlo. She was on a TV series called XL, and that's it. Well, it's still impressive regardless. She still has a list, and it has more than 2 things on it. So congratulations to Marlo. Continue getting your acting classes. So then eventually Marlo and Sheree, they go to work out on these bicycle or whatever. And again, shady editing, because as soon as Marlo starts pedaling, she stops after 13 seconds and she's like, oh, okay, I'm tired. Let me cross my legs. And then Sheree's like, oh, I also talked about the whole situation with Kenya, you know, about your event. And she mentioned the whole white refrigerator. I mentioned the whole white refrigerator thing to her. And again, we get a flashback of that. And honestly, producers, I see what y'all are doing here. We're already 3 episodes in. I feel like y'all are trying to play on our nostalgia and the whole, oh, let's reminisce on the past thing with these flashbacks. We need to let it go, because the white refrigerator thing, it was funny the first flashback, but now this is like the 10th time we already seen it. Like, enough already. Let's move forward and leave the past in the past. Yes, the past was fun and it was funny and it was hilarious, but we need to make moments moving forward, or else you're always going to try to play on our nostalgia, and that can only take you so far on this show. We head over to Candy's house, where she's on a Zoom meeting with her agent Nick, and they're discussing this role that she's going to get, where she's going to have this intimate scene with another woman, and they're discussing it, and she's also talking about all these awards that she wants in the future, that she already has 2 of them, but she needs 2 more. I believe she called it the EGOT, and then next thing you know, the producers were like, okay, Todd, go. You know, the producers stay sending Todd in any random scene with Candy. So then Todd, he walks in and he's like, oh, hey Candy, what's going on? Oh, hey Nick, yeah, I just said hi to you 2 seconds ago, but we have to do this in front of the cameras. But hey, so Candy, you know, let's talk about everything. And then Candy is just like, well, Todd, are you gonna feel comfortable if I did this sex scene with another woman? And Todd is just like, yeah, no, I'll be completely okay with that. Like, you can do whatever you want, just don't do it with another man. And Candy's just like, oh, well, okay, I understand that. And then Todd is just like, you know what? I actually want to talk about something right now, because you're about to get this other role right now, and I kind of wanted to, you know, talk about my feelings. So he sits down, and Todd is just like, I just feel like every time I try to put myself out there in any type of production or whatever, that it always gets just overshadowed. That's basically what he was trying to say. No matter how much effort he tries to put in anything that they both do, or even that he does by himself, it's always Candy first, and not because it's Candy's choice, but because I believe it's the audience who just sees Candy first, because Candy is and this is no shade to Todd, but Candy is the star first. We all know Candy, and then we know Todd, unfortunately. But I mean, I know them as both of them together. So Todd, it's not like you're a nobody either. Candy, she doesn't really know what to do. I can't even give a proper solution of what Todd can do. If anything, I will say this to you, Todd, because I believe you were the producer and not Candy. I don't think Candy was a part of it. I think it was just you. You were part of that show that was successful earlier this year, or the end of last year, BET Presents the Encore, that was a hit show and you were part of that. So, I mean, for that, you have to give yourself kudos. That you did that without Candy. I believe you did that without Candy. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments. So Candiace just like, well, I mean, I don't really know what you want from me, Todd. All I need from you is understanding. But you don't want to meet me halfway. And Todd is just like, well, I'm going to make my own thing. And I believe his idea consisted of 4 different women characters making 4 different gossip pages and the show or movie being surrounded around that. So that's a good idea right there, Todd. And he's also telling Candy, I mean, if I make this, I don't really want you being a part of it. I mean, the most you can do is just maybe make a song, maybe a little jingle or two, but that's about it. And Candy's just like, well, I mean, if I did that to you and it was the other way around, you would not be happy about that situation, Todd. So, I mean, I don't think that's fair, but I understand. And I mean, again, it's just a tricky situation because, again, if Candy attaches herself to his project, of course, the audience is going to look at it like, oh, look at that show that Candy came up with, knowing that it was probably Todd's idea and his whole creation. So, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of like a lose-lose situation because I don't want to say, oh, Candy, you need to dim your light to make your husband's ego or pride or whatever feel better about himself. I don't want to say that either. But I mean, at the same time, Todd, you shouldn't want your wife to just also be in the back burner. I don't know. What do y'all think? Do y'all see any solution with this? And the entire time that Candy and Todd are having this conversation back and forth, her agent is still on the Zoom meeting on the laptop and he's just there like, hello. And then Todd is just like, oh, he flips the camera around and he's like, Nick, what do you think about this whole situation? Do you agree with me or Candy? Now, if I was Nick, I would have pretended like my Wi-Fi was broken or something. I would have been like, shh, shh, I can't hear you, shh, I'll call you later. Like, I'm not risking my job for your pride. No. I'm going to disconnect and end this Zoom meeting now. But he gives a little political answer. He's like, well, I just feel like, you have really strong opinions and, that's valid. He was smart. We head over to Drew and she's at a kid's store shopping around for a gift for Brooklyn to bring to her birthday party. And she's there with her assistant, Anthony. And she has a book in her hand, right? And I'm assuming the book was by Beyonce because she looks at Anthony. She's like, what do you think about this book? Do you think this is a good gift for Brooklyn? What do you think? And Anthony, he's looking at Drew and he's like, oh yes, of course. Who's not going to learn anything from the iconic, legendary Beyonce, Giselle Carter, Mama, Honey, the House Down Boots, oh, Kurt. And I'm just like, Anthony, I mean, Drew, can you stop? Like, we don't need Anthony on the show. But then again, he's about to bring a whole different mess to this show. Drew starts up the conversation about Sheree. And she's like, well, when me and Ralph met Sheree at the La Archive event, I didn't really appreciate her answer when Ralph was like, well, I hope you heard many good things about us. And Sheree was like, yeah, because we all remember that on the first episode, Sheree was being shady. So Drew, she called feelings to that. She's like, I didn't really like that response. So I'm not liking Sheree right now. And she throws it back at Anthony. And she's trying to get information out of him to try to get him to do all her dirty work for the camera. So that way she doesn't really have to be the messy one. And of course, he fell right into it. And she's like, so Anthony, I mean, tell me about you and your relationship with Sheree. You said that she didn't pay you like, what, $5 or $10 or whatever? And he was doing the most. He was like, no, she owes me like $20,000 and she has a history of doing this. And then the producers, the editors, they put a bunch of claims of Sheree not paying people back. Now, I do remember, if I'm not mistaken, many moons ago, of her supposedly like owing people money for the construction at her house. I'm not sure how accurate that is, allegedly, but there was a bunch of receipts on the screen. And he's like, yeah, no, I couldn't work for her no more. I had to distance myself because I needed to pay my bills, and my electricity bill here in Atlanta is already high, and they don't wait for anybody or Sheree. They need a credit card quickly. His way of explaining things was very interesting, but that was that. So I'm like, so Sheree, this is what's going to drive a wedge between you and Drew Anthony right there. So, I mean, again, people can say that they don't want him on the show, but if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't get this ball going between Drew and Sheree. So then Drew gets a phone call out of nowhere, and it's Sonya. And Sonya's like, oh, hey, I just got hit by an 18-wheeler truck, and I'm on the middle of the road. Like, can you please come pick me up? And I'm like, now, wait a minute, Sonya. You have like 900 different people living in your house, and you call Drew? Out of all the people in the world, you call Drew to come pick you up. Why? I thought it was so random. I'm like, since when are you two friends like that to feel comfortable to call her? I mean, I don't know. Again, you could have called a neighbor. You could have called Ross. Didn't you say that you and Aaron have like a chef thing? I mean, not a chef, a chauffeur thing going on. He could have sent you a limo or two or three or something like that. Why did you call Drew? Again, I thought it was random. So then Drew was like, "Oh, let's pay for this book. It was $200." She gets in the Batman mobile with Anthony. They go off and they find Sonya. Now, this is also the other interesting thing I want to know. So the production hold up Sonya and AAA from getting her truck towed to get footage because like she was just standing there. So how long was it until Drew actually got there? I mean, I'm pretty sure the pickup truck probably got there and she was probably like, wait, no. Andy and the production team, they need to film all of this. So don't take my car yet. Wait till Drew comes here, okay? Yeah, she's gonna be with this other guy. Just give me a second. Yeah, I need camera time. And then Drew finally showed up with Anthony. So again, I wonder how that was. And then they hug and Sonya's like, "Oh, we need to go pick up my son Deuce, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, I mean, okay, it was pretty random. I'm glad that she's safe and everything. But I mean, again, to call Drew, choices. It's finally time for Brooklyn's birthday tea party event. And we see Kenya arriving at the place that she was at the beginning of the episode. Except this time, everything is decorated. Everything is set up. She is so happy with the way everything turned out. All the guests are arriving one by one. They're all mingling with each other. And we're introduced to, I believe, a new friend of the show. Maybe moving forward. I'm not sure if this is just a one and done. But we're introduced to Kenya's friend, Moneta. And she is known as Neo, the singer's ex-wife. So I'm curious to see if we see more of her. I would like to see more of her moving forward. I mean, the more the merrier. We see Sheree walking in first, and I'm looking at her like, okay, yeah, she looks nice, but let's see what she's holding in her hands. Okay, that's a purse. Maybe she has a gift inside there, but no, she walks into the birthday party with no gift whatsoever for Brooklyn, or at least nothing that I could see, because she just walks in holding her purse, and I'm like, really, Sheree? To a birthday party, nothing? You didn't bring anything? Not even, like, the least you could do is make a little baby jogger shirt for Brooklyn. That way you could also promote your She by Sheree line, but I guess missed opportunity. So then she goes up to Kenya and she's like, "Is Drew here? Because I want to fight. Is she here yet? Is she?" And then Kenya's like, "No, she's not, but just wait till we all sit down and then you can start being messy, okay?" And Sheree's like, "Okay, out of the respect of you and Brooklyn, I'm gonna do that." So she moves out of the way. All the other wives, they start arriving. Sonya, she came with Deuce. Then Marlo, she didn't come with her nephews because her nephews were like, "No, we're not doing that." So she comes by herself. And Sonya, she was struggling with Deuce. I mean, Deuce was all over the place. He just did not want to be there. He just kept running around and she kept trying to sit him down. She's like, stop, sit down. You are misbehaving. Why are you misbehaving? And Deuce was like, "It's because I want to." And I'm like, oh, so adorable. I would have let him just trash the place just because of that. No, he wouldn't. But it was cute. Eventually, Sonya had to sit him on her lap so that way he could like relax. So then Kenya, she's like, "Okay, we're gonna make the big introduction for Brooklyn. So I'm gonna go get her and we're gonna walk in through the front door." So everybody huddle up by the entrance. So everybody's huddling up while Kenya's outside with Brooklyn and everybody's waiting. And then we see somebody walking in and it's not Kenya or Brooklyn, it's Candy. Candy walks in with Blaze and Ace and she's looking at everybody looking at her and she's uncomfortable and she's just like, "Why is everybody staring at me? What did I do? And why is everybody looking in my direction?" And everybody's like, "Candy, move. Kenya's about to come in." So she rushes out the way. Eventually, Kenya walks in with Brooklyn and she gets her grand entrance. Brooklyn, she looks a little confused. She's like, "What's going on here?" But Kenya, she looks so happy. And is it me or are we not really seeing much of Kenya this season? I mean, she's kind of like over there and everything is just centered around Drew. Like, producers, can we not do that? But Kenya, she looks so happy with Brooklyn. Like, it's just so nice to see. Eventually, we get down to the mess right away because everybody starts mingling. Everybody, sees each other talking. And Drew, not Drew, Sheree, she's trying to avoid Drew, so she's walking away from her. Kenya, she gives everybody a card. And she's like, "Okay, we're going to play some games. We're going to start with Brooklyn trivia." And she's like, "Okay, everybody, let's go sit down at the table." So they all sit at this table. And she's like, "Okay, I'm going to name some questions about Brooklyn. And we're going to have to write your answers on the paper. And you're going to see who gets a point." And honestly, I would have been such a terrible friend because I would not have known any of these questions. I mean, I give Marlo props for just knowing Brooklyn's middle name. I mean, some of the questions were like, "Oh, when did she have her first walk? What was her first word that she spoke?" And I'm like, how do you expect somebody to know that? Like, I mean, I barely know that about my own friends. I mean, am I the problem? But then eventually that was cute. It was a cute little game. And of course, the cuteness couldn't last because we had to get messy right away. And then Kenya's like, "Okay, well, since this is a tea party, we're going to spill some tea. So everybody on your card, you're going to write some tea that you know about somebody at this table." And I'm like, oh, Kenya, all right, let's see. I mean, at a birthday party, what do y'all think? I mean, I guess. I mean, my rule in life is you could be messy wherever, so... So I'm okay with that. So then Kenya's like, okay, so everybody write your things out. So everybody's writing their thing. Moneta, she speaks up and she's like, I have fake titties. And I'm like, oh, okay, Miss Moneta, can you please just sit down, please? Thank you. We're trying to film a show here. And I believe the first comment came from Candy. So Candy picked out a card, and she's like, let's see. This one says, Candy sucks dick in a locker room. What? And then Moneta, Moneta had to pull a Portia. Like, she wanted a moment so badly. She was like, okay, this is my chance. Okay, I'm going to be the new Portia. Who said that? And I'm like, Moneta, stop. It's been done before. Stop it. But I'm just like, wait a minute, having the conversation about sucking dick in a locker room in front of children at this birthday party like this, I honestly was very disappointed that I wasn't part of the conversation. I was so confused by that. I'm like, well, wait, Candy, do you do this? But Candy's just like, well, who wrote this about me? Because I ain't never sucked dick in a locker room. Why would anybody accuse me of sucking dick in a locker room? And everybody was just looking at her like, and nobody fessed up to it. I mean, honestly, in my opinion, I feel like it was Sheree. It was either Sheree or Marlo, or possibly even Kenya, because Kenya probably wanted to get the ball going with this messy game. So I don't know. Who do y'all think? My thing is on Sheree, but Sheree had the line of the night, because Sheree had me dying when she was in the confessional and she was like, I don't get why Candy's so insulted by this. I mean, she sucks dick everywhere else, so why is she offended by this? I'm like, Sheree. Like, I was dying. I had to replay that part like 3 times. I'm like, Sheree is when she's right, she's right. The next comment that Kenya reads out loud is, well, I couldn't order anything from the archive website because the website just simply didn't work. And I wouldn't put it past Kenya being the one that wrote that letter herself in order to shade Marlo. So Marlo, she gets defensive right away and she tells Kenya, no. See, what happened was when you order on the archive website, you get an email with a survey and you need to fill out the survey in order to process your claim. Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, no, but my website is legit. So then they start going at it, and Marlo, she throws it out there to Kenya. She's like, oh, well, I heard that the Range Rover or the car that you're riding in belongs to Lisa Ray, and I know that Lisa Ray is probably at home watching this like, I don't even know Kenya. Like, her name is just constantly being thrown around. If anything, if I was Lisa Ray, I would have sent a cease and desist to Marlo and Kenya and the production team, like, stop mentioning my name unless I'm getting paid. So then Kenya, she gets up and she gets upset. She starts going at it with Marlo. She's like, oh, please. Like, your little archive thing is not even successful. Marlo starts, I think Marlo threw a dig at her outfit. She's like, oh, is your outfit Chanel inspired? So then Kenya's like, no, it's not, bitch. And she added the B word. And I'm like, oh, see, now, Kenya, I was with you, but, there's kids around. Shh, at least, like, if you're going to call her that, at least whisper it to her. Be like, you know what, Marlo? You're a bitch. But don't scream it out loud where all the kids are there. I believe there was a kid at the table, too. Right next to Marlo, there was a woman. And she had her son on her lap. So, I mean, I guess it's a free-for-all. So then the next comment that they bring up is, oh, well, I heard that somebody at this table doesn't pay their assistant. Obviously, it was Drew who wrote that comment about Sheree. And Sheree's just like, oh, yeah, Drew, I wanted to talk to you about this because, I mean, I heard that you've been going around just spreading all types of information out there. So they start getting into it. Sheree, you could tell that she's going from 0 to 100 as soon as Drew continues trying to talk over her. Sheree's like, are you going to let me fucking talk? And I'm like, Drew, if I was you, I would look at Sheree's vein on her neck. As soon as it pops out, you should be scared because you're in danger. They start going at it. Drew's trying to explain that, yeah, my assistant, he told me that you don't pay him or you don't pay anybody that works for you. And Sheree's like, don't play about my kids or my money or my finances because I could play myself. I don't need anybody to make a fool out of myself because I can do it just by myself. So then we get this lady in the red that's sitting on the far left of the table. She jumps out of nowhere. I believe her name was Fatum, and she is Sheree's friend. And she jumps in and she's like, wait. Is this the same assistant? That accused Drew's husband, Ralph, of being gay? And I'm like, here we go. See, the whole episode was going fine. I was laughing, all this and all that, until that moment there. I don't know, it left a bad taste in my mouth. I'm like, lady, you were better off just sitting at the end of the table with your pretty red hat on your head. Like, Why add that to the conversation? The reason why I don't like that being brought up again is because nobody says anything about Candy, like, allegedly messing around with other women, etc., etc. Like, nobody says anything, right? That's all cool. But for some reason on the Housewives show, this is an ongoing pattern where if you throw it at somebody's husband, like, oh, your husband is gay, or he's messing around with this man, or he was seen with this man, blah, 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 all of a sudden it's looked at as a bad thing. So what? Let's say Ralph was gay, or let's say he was bisexual, and Drew did know. And then what? Like, what's your argument there? That is something that I just don't like it, because it was already done in Atlanta with Kim Fields, and I didn't like that either when Sheree brought that out many years ago, and she was like, oh, Kim Fields, your husband might be gay. So what? I just don't like that they constantly use that to belittle somebody, or to use it as a jab or as an insult, like, oh, I got some tea on her. Yeah, your husband is gay, as if it's a bad thing. Like, okay, what if she already knows? Like, again, that whole story, that whole storyline thing right there, that just needs to be swept out. The lady in the red, she needed to be escorted out. I just didn't understand what the purpose of her saying that out loud was for. I'm like, okay, what's your point? Drew, she got upset. I mean, Drew went from, like, happy-go-lucky Drew to, like, somebody else. Like, she became a Power Ranger. She told the lady, she was like, don't ever talk about my husband like that ever again. Like, Drew, I don't know, seeing her upset, I'm like, she's about to flip this table. Like, you better run. And then speaking of run and being upset, we see another lady, the lady who was also sitting at the table. She gets up, she's like, fuck this. No, I'm leaving. There are children at this place. No, I'm leaving. And I'm like, what? And Marlo had me dying. She was like, bye, lady, bye. Oh, your child isn't even here. Your child's over there. I was dying. She was throwing a tantrum. I mean, lady, it's really not that serious. Like, I get it because, they were, talking about sucking dick and using B words and stuff, and there were children around, but it's really not that serious. Like, just, I'm pretty sure they weren't even listening. Like, it's really not that serious. And then she walking away. Kenya, she gets up. She's like, I'm gonna go talk to her. The lady's throwing a tantrum. I'm like, Kenya, just throw her out and cut that friendship altogether. Like, she's that big of a baby. Like, it's really not that serious. But Marlo's comment on that had me dying. Sheree tried to clean things up with Drew by telling her, Drew, I really thought that you were going to be a cool girl, but after you listening to Anthony and running with his lies that he said about me, not paying him and all that, I think that you're like a ditzy bitch now. And Drew, you further proved Sheree right by what you said just a second later, because she was like, well, you know what about my assistant? He's on parole right now. He's still hired, but he's on parole. And everybody's shocked by it. And Candy's like, what? What do you mean he's on parole? Did you not hear the accusations that he made about your husband? And she's like, wait, what? Like, what accusations? And Marlo's like, that Anthony said that Ralph is gay. And Drew is just like, wait, what? What? He said what? And I'm like, Drew, like, like, what do you think that you and Fathom were just arguing about? Like, what do you think that came out of her mouth? I just don't understand what Drew got upset about then. If she didn't hear that coming out of her mouth, I just don't understand it. Like, what's not connecting here, Drew? So, I mean, you further prove Sheree's point. But Kenya, she breaks it up. She's like, okay. Never mind. I thought that this was going to be a nice, fun, shady game. No, you did not. You knew what you were doing. But she was like, no. Let's just go sing happy birthday to Brooklyn. Let's just call it quits with this. So everybody gets up. They all circle around Brooklyn. They sing happy birthday to her. And then, that's that. Right? Or so we thought. So everybody's by the exit. Everybody's kind of like, okay now. Sheree, she's talking to, I believe she was talking to Candy. And she's like, you know what, Candy? Me and you, we need to have a conversation too. And Candy's like, wait, what did I do now? Why you need to talk to me? I didn't do anything wrong to you. And Sheree's like, well, the fact is that you actually went around with these lies that, you were being heard, that you were listening to, and you were kind of just spreading it around. So we need to discuss this. And Candy, I mean, you wouldn't like it if it was the other way around. So I have to agree with Sheree. And then Drew, Sheree kept motioning to Drew by calling her. And Drew was just like, my name is Drew. Thank you very much. My name is Drew. Thank you very much. And you could see Drew getting a little closer. And Sheree, she kept putting her hand in her face. And Drew, she was the one that kind of crossed boundaries because she extended her hand and she put it like almost in Sheree's face. And I'm like, Drew, wait a minute. Like, we all know what happens when you put your hand in somebody's face like that. And then Candy, she also took I don't know if anybody heard her dig that she took at Phaedra when she was just like, well, I mean, somebody made up a lie about me before and I'm still upset about it. So obviously, I'm assuming she was talking about what happened with Phaedra and Portia many years ago. And then Drew, again, she kept getting closer to Sheree. Moneta, she got in between them trying to separate them because Drew, she just kept getting closer to her like a chihuahua. I'm like, Drew, do you want to just be like mashed potato on this floor? because I don't think you want to take on Sheree. I don't know. Who do y'all think would win in a fight against Sheree? I mean, Sheree wasn't backing down either because Sheree, she put her hand in her face. She put her hand back in Sheree's face and they kept getting closer. Again, if it wasn't for Moneta, I don't know. They probably would have came to blows. And then Kenya. Kenya goes up to Drew and she's like, Drew, what are you doing? And Drew's like, I talk with my hands. That's it. I just talk with my hands. And Kenya's like, well, your hands are going to get you beat up. But is she lying though? Because I don't know, Drew. If you would have done that, Sheree, again, I don't think that she's the one to mess with. She'll probably drag you all around this tea party right now. But that was it. Next week, we're heading to New York. And that was that, everybody. What did everybody think about this episode? I mean, after last week's tough episode centered around Drew and Ralph's toxic relationship, it was nice to see a much more lighthearted episode this time around. And next week, we're heading to one of my favorite cities in the world, New York City. So I'm excited to see what the women bring over there. But let me know your thoughts in the comments about this whole episode. Do y'all also like Moneta as an addition to the cast? Would y'all want to see more of her? Let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye, everybody. Mwah.